2 weeks ago, there was the go-ahead given in the UK to this scheme, which is going to dim the sun to try and control, as they call it, runaway global warming. A bit like any big system, so climate system or the skin microbiome, an ecosystem. If you play God with one part, if you can't predict the effect it's going to have on the whole system, that could have catastrophic effects, could set the whole system out of balance. So what you've got to do is...
Sam and Kit Bowen-Russell, who really took skincare into their own hands.
Twin brothers from the UK who are taking the skincare industry by storm.
Sam is a nuclear astrophysicist, and Kit is a geophysicist and author.
A Notre Dame grad and his twin brother are looking to revolutionize skin health.
The two launched a 2-year intensive research study.
Two very smart guys who knew all about bad skin at a very early age.
That woman at the end was our mum, and really she's the face which launched 1,000 questions for us.
Three, two,
Sam.
1. And we're live. Hello, boys. How we doing?
Sam, get in towards the middle as well. Get in, right.
Yeah, come on, Sam. Get that long mane in here, mate.
No.
How's the week been, boys? It's been okay so far. Well, actually, we're saying that we're only Wednesday, aren't we? It started Wednesday for you, but
Yeah, well, no, we had I don't know if you guys had it, because I don't think Australia were involved in the war, but we had a VE Day on Monday, so there was like a bank holiday.
Well, I wasn't for it, but yeah.
Oh, right, okay. It was a bank holiday, but then there was VE Day, which is Victory in Europe Day.
Victory in Europe tomorrow.
So there were big parades through London and big parades.
The National Day is tomorrow.
That's the one good thing about being in Australia. You're so far away from all of those warring nations like Europe and even Asia. You're quite far away from, aren't you? So you're quite stuck out on a limb, on a big piece of rock.
yeah. The Chinese keep sailing their boats close to, just to kind of like show that they're they're thereabouts. But Sydney, it does feel bigger than Melbourne, but anyway. But apparently population size are similar. Maybe Sydney's a bit more, but Melbourne apparently should overtake it at some point. If there's 27 million people in Australia, Sydney and Melbourne are by far the biggest cities. Do you know what's a mad one? I think Tokyo. Tokyo is potentially the most.
Oh, that's crazy. Tokyo's a bit like
They've got like 30 million people in the same area of London.
Tokyo, they build upwards a bit like Gotham City, don't they? Because they don't have any space.
Yeah.
They've got like massive multi-story buildings. Everyone who went for the World Cup said that the Japanese were so welcoming to other cultures and stuff like that, but they're so deferential to authority and stuff like that.
It's a different culture.
It is a different culture. Yeah, they would queue for, unlike the Brits who say we queue for hours.
We do.
Yeah, we do. But the Japanese would genuinely queue probably for years.
If you're in the tubes in the morning when the commuting hours are on, generally I've seen it myself, and they literally somehow mesh together like perfectly, and then come out the other side. Like no one breaks stride or anything. It's all like it's almost like a military like kind of performance. But Kit, you're more South American, I reckon. You'd get on down there, bit more lawless.
Do you mean South America or South of America?
South America is in the continent.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were the American South as opposed to South America.
Nah.
Right.
What's been in the news of late?
Well,
give me your top story.
I don't know what you think, Adam, but I thought we could structure the podcasts a bit more like this. So we're appealing a bit more to a mass audience as well, because we like this as well. We like talking about a broad range of things. So I thought to appeal to us as well, which is why we're doing this, a good thing to do would be to talk about something big in the news or some big current event and then relate it back to what we're doing or skin health in some way.
Yeah,
and they often can be, because we talk about big systems a lot and big events. What do you think, Adam?
Sounds fantastic, mate. Let's dive in. What have you got for us?
Yeah, so this week I thought a really topical one. There's loads of them actually, but the one I picked was, I think 2 weeks ago or so, there was the girl. to try and control, as they call it, runaway climate change or runaway global warming. And there's loads of things to go into there, but I just wanted to, again, get your juices flowing, Adam, because I know you're a true skeptic in the true meaning.
Please get my juices flowing.
Yeah. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about why it's important in cases like this to be a skeptic. And when I say a skeptic, I mean a true scientist. So you analyze all the data, and with no political or no bias of your own, you then come to a conclusion. And why you've got to be a true skeptic about big systems.
Then what do we do?
Well, first and foremost, Adam, this scheme to dim the sun includes doing things like putting up particles into the atmosphere and making cloud particles more reflective, so the sunlight supposedly is dimmed on the planet. And I think this is an incredibly bad idea if you know what we know about big systems, because you're playing God with one tiny part, as we've always talked about, Adam. So if you play God and you just focus on one tiny part and think that will solve the whole system, you're going down the wrong avenue.
You don't know the repercussions.
Firstly, so this is a UK scheme, so therefore I'm presuming it's going to be UK clouds. Is that correct?
Yeah, of which there are many.
Yeah. See, that's another good point too. If we're just doing it in the UK, then you can't just.
Yeah, but I'm no weatherman, but I'm presuming weather systems travel. Don't they always say they travel from other countries and continents and whatnot, right? So maybe those clouds move on by. But anyway,
exactly.
Fair enough.
Well, so the main thing is because we signed that petition, so that's like the week we signed the petition, and then we can go into why and everything. So.
The petition was, I'll read it out. Petition was stop UK sun dimming experiments, say no to solar geoengineering.
Solar geoengineering.
Yeah. So it's just basically playing God with a tiny part of our climate system. That's what it is in a nutshell.
Well, hold up. So what's solar geoengineering? I can't even figure that one out.
Just engineering artificially, us humans engineering something to dim the sun. That's all it is. So we're trying to...
Geoengineering means engineering the Earth. So like trying to engineer some certain outcome on the Earth.
So trying to play God with a massive climate and a massive Earth system by changing one tiny part of it. So we're trying to play God, essentially, which is never a good idea.
So, sorry, Sam, you keep going. Give me an example of how you can engineer the Earth to combat climate change.
You mean other than the sun dimming?
Yes, but your guys are saying, right, that you don't want the particles to be put in the clouds, correct?
Yes. Yeah. It's an incredibly bad.
So then, what's your method then of supporting, of tackling climate change?
Well, number one, you've got to ask yourself again. This is why I said it's important to be a skeptic. So we need to go right back and firstly say, okay, well, what we see as this supposedly human-made climate change. There's loads of questions. One, is it a bad thing? Because we've seen throughout history it's been way hotter on the Earth and we've had way more life. So again, you can go down many rabbit holes, Adam. So this is why it's important to be a skeptic about everything, even your own supposedly really firmly held beliefs. So you've got to question yourself, question others, instead of just go with the status quo, which is politically correct. So from our research, again, very simply, it looks as if the evidence points towards that climate change happens all the time on the Earth. You've got this big system, and it's always fluctuating due to different events like this. And it's not necessarily apparent that, number one, the current global warming we're seeing is a bad thing for the planet. And number two, that it's necessarily caused by humans. And those are two statements which would get you cancelled if you're on the BBC. Just because they go against the status quo. But what I'm saying is you've got to be a skeptic about these things.
No. I fully understand, and I appreciate it's not an easy topic, and there definitely is the temperature's going up. It's all because of humans, blah 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 blah. But I guess a question I have is, you can't not rule out human beings, though, right? And the activity from humans.
Oh, absolutely not. No. The whole point is we don't know. But anyone who's certain on either side, again, certainty is the sign of insecurity. So anyone who's certain that they know exactly how this massively complex system works and how it will turn out is wrong. So both sides.
I agree with that.
You have to be a skeptic.
I agree with that.
And in terms of big systems too.
Yeah.
When you do have you have events happening all the time, they work as a big system. So if something, say like we're talking about the humans and how that works, normally big systems, they work together to with these changes. So the changes that we're making, the system could be what's the word?
It will have like a self-regulating loop.
Yes, so it's built to be self-regulating. So we don't know whether these changes are good or bad for it, but it will be self-regulating itself. And then if we start trying to regulate very small parts of it, I think the main point is if we start trying to regulate very small parts of it, we don't know the repercussions of regulating those small parts.
Understood.
That comes back to
potentially, Adam. Sorry, I know you're gonna. Just potentially what we could be doing as well, if you do believe that global warming, climate change is caused by humans and is going to be catastrophic, what we potentially could be doing by interfering within the system is making it far worse. So we could be actually doing the bidding of these people who want it to be hotter.
So one part of it might be human related. What's another reason for climate change?
Loads of things
outside of human activity.
It's good. Again, the loads of things, Adam. We can go down loads of, but throughout history, if you look at the graphs, again, the human mind, especially if you haven't studied geology or geophysics like I did, we don't think of things in massive big time periods. So we only think of our short lifespan. Again, this sounds a bit depressing, but we think of it as a huge long period of time. The Earth's been around for 4.6 billion years, and it's been a self-regulating system for 4.6 billion. 4.6? I
think so.
Yeah, 4.6 billion years. And we're saying that we've seen a little increase in warming and CO2 within 20 years or so, 30 years, and we're saying that's indicative of a massive big climate change. But throughout history, if you've looked at, one, it's been way warmer and there's been much more life, and two, the Earth has gone through many bigger catastrophes in terms of global warming. So things like, they have things like when we get closer to the sun or when there's coronal mass ejections. Is that right?
Yeah,
that warms the Earth.
There's big volcanic eruptions, massive volcanic eruptions which block the sun, things like that.
And we have these cycles. Our planet, it goes closer to the sun over a cycle of thousands of years. So again, these things are going to make it. These things are going to have much more of an effect.
It's a bit like say, I mean, it's not fully relatable, but it's like on the stock market. If you're looking over, that's why if you're looking at to see whether a stock's going to do well within a day, and you're looking in the day whether it's going down or up, you go, oh, today your stock or your Bitcoin or whatever you've invested in went up, because I have a lot of my friends talk about they've invested in crypto, and then each day they're like, it's gone up by 10% today, and then as if that's indicative in any way of like whether it's going to do well in the big long term.
That's a good thing. So
if we think that in the last 40 years it's been warming 100. What time frames do they use?
I think in the last 50 years or so.
Okay, so even 50 years, 100 years, it doesn't matter. It's still tiny. If we just look at that, that's just like looking at like 5 hours on a trading chart to see what the stock price is. Not even that, even smaller.
So and then what happens on those stock prices is you see an increase, Adam. I don't know if you've ever done trading, and then your human brain, we're accustomed to think that what is happening now will last forever. There's a word for it. I can't remember. Graham Hancock talks about it. So our human brain thinks that whatever is happening now will last forever. But in actual fact, like Sam's saying on trading, when you see a blip, when it goes up like that, the stock prices, often it's accompanied by a fall like that, and it goes the general.
Myself.
Oh no, yeah, but at some point it's going to fall down again. It's not going to go up forever, is it?
No,
But what we're doing as humans is we're saying, look, there's a little increase here on the chart. That means it's going to go up forever if we don't stop doing what we're doing.
Well, yeah, but then we don't know what all the factors are of making it go up and what the factors are of making it go down. So we attribute all the factors just to one thing, humans, rather than all these different, so many different factors.
And also, you've got to look at geological time periods as well, because the Earth is very good at regulating itself and surviving, as it has done for 4.6 billion years. So to think that it's going to combust after 20 years of human-driven global warming is, again, is just a very unscientific way of looking at it.
I could dive into this whole topic, but I get your whole point of I get your whole point of big systems and how you judging big systems, right? Could you? Let me play devil's advocate a little bit here, though. So you've mentioned that global warming is climate change has changed. If you look at it in a smaller scheme, has changed quite a lot, right, in the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Aren't you guys saying in the skin microbiome that there's been a big change on human skin in the last 20, 30 years or so?
I like your thinking. Yeah. Exactly. Well, we're saying it over the last few thousand years, really. So again, I mean, you're right about this. The skin microbiome would be a system, but what we're seeing is since our ancestors' time. So how long have humans been around? Do you know, Adam? Anatomically modern humans.
I've seen these graphics before. It's really cool, but I'm going to say, so the planet is, what would you say, 4.6 billion?
Yeah.
I'm going to say mankind's been around as since caveman died. Oh. Is it 100,000 years? 100,000?
300.
No, I said 100,000. Hundreds of thousands of years, basically.
Good guess. I think it's going to be pushed back to over 300,000 now.
They used to be. They said 1,000.
They used to think 100,000 years. So again, this is the other thing about science is they keep pushing the estimates back for humans. So that's another topic. But anyway, so humans have been around for 300,000 years, and we've existed in nature without any chemicals or Western lifestyles. But it's only with the introduction of the recent Western lifestyles that the skin microbiome biodiversity has been utterly destroyed on the skin. But you're right, Adam. The question is, would that keep going? But as we've seen on the skin, it's a bit more of a closed system, and we're constantly being exposed to the environment, these chemicals in the environment. So yeah.
Okay. What's your takeaway from the whole? So you guys signed the petition then to not do this scheme, this cloud particle scheme thing.
Yeah. So again, it's like in any system, like in the skin microbiome. If you try and play God with one part of the system, again, you don't know how it will affect the overall, as we call it, biodiversity or the overall system.
Is that your analogy for what happens with humans who have skin problems and trying to chuck on some cream or whatever, some steroid or whatever? You're trying to play God with a small part. You're not really factoring in the whole.
So if you're trying to change one small part of the system. So as you say, Adam, with things like these creams, which people are prescribed. So steroids is a good one. They're trying to sort out one underlying symptom. They're trying to just dampen the immune system response to anything. So you're just influencing one part of the system, forgetting the rest of the system. And again, that could have catastrophic effects on the whole system. So the same is true with probiotics. We talked about probiotics in previous podcasts, but when you introduce, say, one type of microbe, again, you're playing God, and you don't know how it affects the whole system. It could be catastrophic. It could set the whole system out of balance. That's the potential, in the short term anyway.
Very cool. Very cool. I wonder if they can use things like AI, Sam, to try and model if this is our human planet and we were to do this with the clouds, and this is all the variables or whatever, what happens? I swear I've heard of. I know they said they tried to. I remember when COVID was on, they were like trying to use AI and machine learning or whatever to try and map or what's the word? I don't know if map's the right word, but they're trying to figure out what other like kind of viruses there are out there or whatever, or like could they come into effect or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway,
AI might. I mean, it would definitely do a better job probably at the moment
than what we can do.
It'll still be so hard because it's all non-linear, so you can't. That's the dampening the sun is in. We talk a lot in all of our papers about chaos theory and non-linear physics. Chaos theory, like the butterfly effect, that's just a basic way of saying it. But if you make one small change here, you have no clue what the big change is over here. So you can't linear.
Talked about that before.
So linearly we can't say it. That's why it's just saying, oh, humans producing a bit more CO2 here means global warming here. It's all just this linear thing, so we can't talk linearly. So we're just saying, right, we're going to block out the sun here, and it's going to lead to this. You can't do that.
Okay, maybe a different question then. What are there are CO2 production, right? Which is from fucking factories, cars, planes, like everything that goes on that humans do. What does that actually do? Like, those molecules, is that the right word? Do they go up into the atmosphere? And is that what is actually going on? Do you guys know?
Oh, you mean with the
all the
CO2?
CO2 we're producing? All the CO2 we're producing as mankind. What does it actually look like? What is it? What's the theory of why it affects global?
I see why it increases global warming. Right, I see. I studied this at UCL actually. I did a course called Climate Physics. I did 2 courses. One was more like geography, and the other one was a really physics module. So we did all the physics of climate change.
You did do the physics of climate?
Yeah, the physics of climate change.
Non-linear.
Sam, what a relevant person to have on the podcast for this question.
No, it's good. I didn't realise you did it.
I did do it, and I loved it because it was actually using physics to do something about the planet and the Earth.
I'd be interested in what the models were.
Again, the really complex models, we didn't go into that because it was like a base level course, but they would have been non-linear stuff, wouldn't they? Yeah.
That's why you can't.
But we didn't get into that.
That's why you can't model it. That's why you mentioned COVID and the models that humans made for that they got completely wrong because they were all based on like, if this happens, then this happens. We can't. It wasn't non-linear, so we couldn't even see.
Wait.
Anything.
We stopped Kit. Kit was going to explain to me what actually is going on with CO2 production.
Yeah. Again, I was going to say it's a bit more complicated, but the big picture idea, which everyone talks about at the moment, and if you hear any of these climate people on TV talking about it, basically they call it a greenhouse gas. So it absorbs and traps heat within the atmosphere and the Earth, within the system of the Earth, supposedly. But again, there's loads of other factors at play. So, and there's loads of other things which are going to make the Earth cool down and heat up. So again, in my eyes, it's just a matter of time before the Earth's self-regulating systems kick in. Because the other thing is, as you found if there's a volcanic eruption, the Earth gets hotter for a period of time, and then because of all the ash and the smoke and the clouds in the atmosphere, it can sometimes lead to a downward spiral of cooling. So it goes hot for a period of time and then goes to a massive cooling. So
you're saying self-regulate. So you're saying that if the Earth gets hotter, something happens to make it cooler eventually. It's not like it knows it. It just happened over time. Is that what you're trying to say? Or?
Well, yes, it's like a big system, really. So then
it's like how ecosystems work, like how forests provide the best systems for the whole forest. So there's all different parts of it that regulate, and that's why we can't predict it. Yeah. So in one way, if you just think of things like the water cycle, if you have global warming, so just imagine that the Earth's temperature is heating up, and then people are saying, okay, the ice caps will melt. The ice caps will melt, and they say, well, and then there'll be less ice to reflect back the sun's heat into the atmosphere.
Yeah, so then you'll get this this cycle. What do they call it? They call it a runaway effect. So then what you'll have is this runaway global warming. As the ice caps get smaller, you have less reflective power for the Earth, and then you'll get more global warming, and it just runs away like that. But again, they're looking at just one factor, because if there's going to be more water in the water system, then you're going to have probably more clouds as well, aren't you? So then clouds are going to block the sun, and then this is going to...
That's a good point.
So again, it's not even, that's just a base level.
Well, it's a base level, but you can't...
Base level knowledge.
The point about this is you can't tell the exact changes that is going to happen from one
change. Yeah, but there's millions and millions of changes which could happen, which could regulate it. So again, just looking at one part of the system is just such a... And again, it's nice, but such a human thing to do. We have all of these fallacies in our thinking of humans, Adam. So number one is we think of our time span as long, whereas the Earth's existed for 4.6 billion years. So we can't think in geological time periods, which is fair enough. Why would we? It makes you just lose it. Number two, we think that everything which is happening now has always been like this and will always be the same in the future. That's another human fallacy. And number three, we think about everything linearly, and that's probably the most important one.
Most important one. We all think linearly. We all think that, oh, this means that. So so kicking a football. So if I kick a football at a fence in a garden, boom, I kick a football at a fence, the fence breaks. That's linear thinking. So I do this, that happens. But then you've got to, again, this is a rudimentary example, but imagine then the football hits a cat and the cat gets injured, and then the neighbour's phone, the neighbour wonders where their cat is, phones you, comes around, gets annoyed that you've hurt their cat in the garden.
Punches the wall.
You couldn't have predicted that. That's a non-linear change. And then maybe the neighbour's auntie is visiting that day and comes around as well, and you meet their auntie who's from Uganda and sets you up with someone who does business in Uganda selling your potted plant products in Uganda, and then you make Uganda your business empire. So again, that's a really weird example, but
that's good. I quite like that.
You can't predict
you can't
what's going to happen in a massive big system. If it was just you in a padded cell with a football and a fence, you would say, well, even then there's other things which could happen, but you would know, bang, if I kick the football here, it breaks the fence. But when you've got all these other things running around in the system, you can't predict how it's going to affect the whole system. And there's chain reactions, a bit like the butterfly effect. Again, the butterfly effect was a term, it's used in a film actually. You might have seen it, Adam.
Which one?
Beautiful Mind, isn't it? Or...
Yeah, but anyway, if a butterfly flaps its wings in, I think they say Singapore, this could cause a tornado in Japan. That was the idea. So a tiny change in the system could have unpredictable effects to the whole system, which we can't even comprehend or imagine because of our human thinking.
Sam, did you study non-linear?
Yeah, I studied
physics. Is it non-linearity? Is it non-linear areas in different subjects, not just physics? Or I don't know, or is it a physics topic?
It was the physics of non-linearity. So in all areas. So we had loads of different examples, but you studied like what happened and how you couldn't predict it, but you can predict certain things. It's a bit like, you can't predict the way it's going to go and what's going to happen, but you can predict patterns. So it's,
Like, what's an example of that then?
I'm trying to remember. Well, you mean a specific example?
Yeah, like you're saying you can't predict the result, but you can predict patterns.
Well, there's when chaos happens. I mean, this might be going down the rabbit hole a bit, but you have these. Oh no, I won't go into that. That's a bit too much. But
how about homework? We save it for the next episode.
I've got a good one to finish on. I remember I was watching a podcast the other day with Adam. And Adam said he was walking. This is really interesting. Adam said he was walking through a forest with his dad, and his dad said, "Look, Adam, look at that fern. Look at the leaves. Look at the fractals appearing on the leaves." And that's an example of chaos theory. So if you look at things like fractals and leaves, they look to you. So when you zoom in on them, they look very ordered in a pattern, don't they? But it's actually chaos.
That's a good one. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, So if you look at like snowflakes, for example, or ferns. Yeah. I love ferns. They look like they're perfectly ordered, right? And they look like someone's just cookie cutted them. But if you zoom in, none of that.
They're different.
There's no. You can't predict what little fern's going to come next in that pattern at all. You cannot predict that, and they're different. But there are patterns within that pattern. So if you see the pattern, it's like that leaf like that, and it's got all the fronds on it. It's like a pattern. But if you zoom in, there's no.
Okay.
Which is
very
crazy.
Good. Okay.
It comes. I mean, it's crazy because of us humans. We think of everything. Because most of the people say we're talking about climate change or whatever it is, or COVID. Everyone just thinks linearly, even crazily, even scientists do. But we know that it's not that. So then when we tie that to the skin, which is the main thing, that's why we talk about all this interference on the skin. We don't know what effects it has on the skin, but two, the crazy effects it has on the body. That's the danger with playing God in the earth and playing.
Can we next episode? Can we do space? Something on space.
Yeah, we can do. Well, we can relate it back to.
The thing is, on that one topic, we can do loads of podcasts. But yeah, if you want the way to bring it back to the big picture, Adam, or the skin microbiome, is that again, all of these treatments you talked about, like probiotics and sorting out one part of the system, could potentially have really negative effects on the whole system. So that's why you've got to sort out the overall biodiversity of the system, which is what we do.
So why don't you sum up why this is linked to the skin, because that's the most important part.
Yeah, so a bit like any big system, so climate system or the skin microbiome, an ecosystem, if you play God with one part, it could have, you can't predict the effect it's going to have on the whole system. So what you've got to do is you've got to keep the whole system healthy. So like on the skin, everything we do is towards keeping the whole system on the skin healthy and keeping biodiversity high. Because biodiversity is a measure of the whole system's health.
So look at everything, not just changing one thing.
Yeah.
One thing as
the big picture.
So are you? But going back to the climate piece, are you guys were almost saying that maybe it isn't unhealthy? What's going on? Maybe it's just status quo. It is what it is, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And again,
and people are making. And the point again, there's loads of reasons why people have these biases towards certain things. There's loads of things we can go into, like human things, wanting to be part of a religion type community, so they latch on to climate change and live and die by that one sword and don't think around it. But it's incredibly damaging for all of us humans as well, just to never be a skeptic and to never question even our own beliefs. But yeah.
that is the end piece, right? Be a skeptic.
Yeah, be a skeptic. But people don't understand what it means nowadays, because there's some skeptics who just think it's questioning everyone else but never questioning their own beliefs.
Critically be a skeptic. Critical thinking is the other thing, right? I think that apparently we all lack nowadays. Okay, right. I've got baby duties, boys. That was good. I like that. I like it. A bit of a change up. It's a good idea, Kit.
So we'll take a weekly event, Adam. So if you find an event that was interesting to you.
I'm finding one on space. I'm telling you. I'm going to find anything on space and I'm coming right at you.
It could be like Elon Musk's star.
Starlink, exactly.
So yeah, find it and we'll talk about it and then we'll link it back to the skin. Brilliant.
Beauty. Right. Cheers, boys.
Enjoy.
See you later.